integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. These are the core values we embody here at the United States Air Force Academy.
We have answered our nation's call and are here to become men, women, and officers of character, motivated to lead in the United States Air Force in service to our nation.
In just a matter of years, we will commission into the world's greatest Air Force, in charge of leading and guiding over 318,000 airmen from all walks of life.
For 25 years now, distinguished scholars, world-class athletes, corporate executives, and military heroes from around the country have come together in one of the nation's largest character and leadership symposiums.
In a feat not replicated in this capacity at any other academic institution, we take pride in this tradition and host countless distinguished guests.
Throughout the 25-year history that NCLS has had, every year it seems to push the boundaries on new topics, new areas of leadership, and gives us something more to think about when it comes to human dignity, the value of life, and really what our role in that is future leaders in the Air Force.
When you think back to the hundreds of thousands of people who have been impacted by NCLS over the years, whether they're cadets, instructors, faculty, coaches, everybody who's been a part of the NCLS experience over 25 years have left growing, maybe challenged, and maybe reinvigorated.
Every year I look forward to getting together with the cadets and the faculty and staff to hear some of these national and international caliber speakers to talk to us about their stories and their experiences. And I'm really awestruck by the stories that they have, and I'm just amazed at how much I take personally. It's an opportunity for me not only to hear their stories, but to reflect on my own personal experiences and really mesh those two things together so that I can grow as a leader, just as we're asking the cadets to grow as well.
To enhance your NCLS experience, please download our mobile app. Connect with us through social media and share your stories using hashtag #LifeWithEthics and hashtag NCLS 2018.
We invite you to step back, look forward, and engage in the rich dialogue that awaits you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 25th anniversary of the National Character and Leadership Symposium here at the United States Air Force Academy. Welcome to the Cadet Wing kickoff for our 25th annual National Character and Leadership Symposium. I'm Cadet First Class Danny Arndt, your MC for this evening's events. This year, I have served as the cadet in charge of the speakers team. I've had the distinct honor of helping shape the 25th anniversary NCLS speaker lineup. I know you're going to really enjoy each and every one of them. In addition to our speakers, please welcome the 20th Superintendent of the United States Air Force Academy, Lieutenant General Jay Silveria, USAFA senior leaders, and distinguished guests. Now, please join me in welcoming Mr. Jim Knowlton, Director of Athletics, to introduce our keynote speaker for tonight's session. Mr. Knowlton.
Thanks. All right, how's everyone doing? That was weak. That was weak. How's everyone doing? Perfect. Well, let me welcome you. We're excited. This is my third NCLS, and I can tell you, you are going to be fired up by the end of this because you are going to learn a ton, and you are going to be excited about the lineup of speakers that we have. Let me just start by getting to know our audience. So let me just ask, is there anyone from 2020 out there? Well done, well done. How about 2021? Well done. Now here's what I really want to know. How many days till recognition? Now how about graduation? Yeah, that's a long way off. That's a long way off. I get it. All right, listen. This year's theme, ethics and respect for human dignity, is very fitting with the issues that we are wrestling with today, as a nation, and around the globe. As leaders, to be successful, we must be open to different ideas, expose ourselves to aspects of the world that we have not personally experienced, and make room in our teams for all types of people from all backgrounds. Over the next couple of days, our guest speakers will do exactly that for us. They will share their stories and open up our world just a little bit more. We'll hear about tough ethical decisions made in the heat of combat, stories from brave men and women who have survived sexual assaults and human trafficking. We'll hear about individuals who have stood up for what they believe in the face of adversity and extreme opposition to make the world a better place, and much, much more. Tonight, we're going to kick off that dialogue with an incredible story from a courageous individual. It's a sports story, a military story, and a great example of how all of us learn life lessons through sports and through competition. The Winter Olympics happening right now embody that metaphor and the importance of respect in life and sports. Before any competition begins, you and your opponent are equal, the score is even, and you are on a literal and figurative level playing field. This does not change because of race, gender, nationality, religious beliefs, or sexual orientation. We're all equal. You also show respect for your opponent by giving your best effort because they deserve it and you expect them to give their best effort. By competing in athletics, we are giving our time and effort. This is ours and ours alone to give, and we cannot get it back. We do this because those who we share the field, the court, the mat, the rink, and the track with deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. Before I introduce our moderator and speaker for tonight, I ask each of you to keep in mind during this symposium, give your time and effort to these speakers. They are giving their very best to you. Be cognizant of those who you are sharing the field with. Respect them and give them your best. If you do, much like any athletic matchup, you will come out on the other side better for it. So without further ado, it's my honor to introduce both the moderator and the guest speaker for tonight's evening event. Our moderator for this session is 2000 Colorado Sportscaster of the Year, Wayne Hagan. Mr. Hagan has been a play-by-play announcer for Major League Baseball since 1981 and has called games for the Oakland Athletics, Chicago White Sox, and the Colorado Rockies, among others. Our speaker, Alejandro Villanueva, is the offensive tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers. While many individuals know Mr. Villanueva for his outstanding football career, many do not know he earned his Ranger tab at Fort Benning in 2010 following graduation from the United States Military Academy at West Point. Mr. Villanueva served 3 combat tours to Afghanistan. During his first deployment, in support of Operation Enduring Freedom, he was the rifle platoon leader, and as a result of his actions during the deployment, was awarded a Bronze Star with V device for rescuing wounded soldiers while under enemy fire. After his last tour, he began to pursue his NFL career, and in May of 2014 was signed with the Philadelphia Eagles as a defensive end. Then in January of 2015, he was signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers as offensive tackle. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to present to you both Mr. Alejandro Villanueva and Mr. Wayne Hagan. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thanks, guys. Good luck. Go get them.
Well, good evening to all of you, and thank you for being here. Number one, I was here last year. We had 4 different athletes. Tonight, I have one of the biggest athletes at 6'10", 300-plus pounds. Alejandro, thank you for being here. Have a seat. What a story this gentleman has. And I think we have to almost do it in sections because of your childhood, just like everybody in here, everybody has a childhood. That's when they begin to dream. That's when they begin to think, what am I going to do with my life? In your early stages of life, you've done far more than just about anybody I know, young man. You have really done an amazing job. So tonight, he's humble. I was around a lot of athletes that at times I would actually say, I think their ultimate goal in life was to die in their own arms. They had some self-importance. They thought because of what they did on the field meant everything. Tonight, you're going to find somebody that's totally the opposite of that, but still has achieved greatness in whatever he has done. So let's begin with the childhood. Your dad's in the Spanish Navy. How in the world do you go from that to what you've become?
Well, that's an interesting question. So I was born in Meridian, Mississippi, when my dad was learning how to fly. Yeah. And my dad's duty assignment was actually Rota Naval Station. And for all you guys, if you guys ever hear the word Rota Naval Station as an assignment, it is by far the best assignment that the entire military has to offer. It's in southern Spain, and it was used as a hub for Marines. As they were mobilized to go to Afghanistan and Iraq, they would stop in Rota Naval Station. They would wait, 2-3 days, and they would get on a flight to go fight the war. So when I was a kid, I grew up in this small naval installation. After 9/11, I pretty much saw a C-17 leave Rota every hour on the hour, full of Marines. And I grew up, trying to go to the weight room and have huge biceps, tattoos, my dog tags hanging out, and a buzz haircut, and be a Marine. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to be a Marine so badly. And I remember going to the gym, and if somebody was doing a warm-up set with 135, and they were about to rack it, I would just sprint over, to help them out, to make sure that they were getting the proper spot, and I would wait around for hours when they were playing basketball games, because I just want to be associated with them. I wanted to be part of that brotherhood that the Marines have. I really envy that a lot. And then when I try to go into the service, I said, when I want to know where the C-17s are going. I've spent my whole life watching C-5s and C-17s take off, and I want to know what is it that they do when they land. I was really curious. To me, that feeling part of a team, that purpose, meant everything to me. And so I try to go to the service academies. There's a small test that they do with the numbers on a circle, and you're supposed to, they have different colors, and there's a number inside. I'm sure you guys have done all that test. Well, I failed miserably, and so I couldn't go to the Air Force Academy or Naval Academy, and by default, I ended up at West Point, and it was a great choice. I'm glad I went to West Point. It was a wonderful place, and now that I see you guys, standing here at an auditorium, listening to a speaker, probably with your cell phones, just trying to see it every now and then, with all the things that you guys have to do in terms of testing, with a bright future ahead of you, it brings me back those memories, about what is that I wanted to do when I was growing up.
So when you made the choice to go to West Point, what did you anticipate was going to happen, and what happened that may have surprised you the most?
So when I went to West Point, I showed up at West Point in 2006, and the war in Iraq was the big war that we were fighting, and it was the Wild Wild West. And as I was graduating, the war in Afghanistan became the primary theater of combat. President Obama came 5 months before graduation and announced the strategy for Afghanistan, the surge of 30,000 troops, the removal of all, the massive withdrawal of troops in 18 months after that. And so, believe it or not, when I was a cadet and I was sitting in your shoes, I was really impatient because I thought I was going to miss out on the war. I really was. As I said, as bad as it sounds, I was hoping that I would get a chance to go. I was hoping that I would get a chance to be a platoon leader. The academy life was very challenging. We did not have Colorado Springs outside the gates. We just had woods. So it was somewhat, of a challenging environment. But at the end of the day, I feel like I spent 4 years preparing, to be a platoon leader, and that's all I wanted to do. Once I became a platoon leader, I found out that the challenge was a lot more difficult than I anticipated, and the experience, nevertheless, was definitely worth it.
So you graduate. You actually were listening to a speech, and about a year later, you found yourself in combat. Take us through that story.
So I graduated. So I mean, this is not just me, by the way. I mean, this is my class, the class of 2010 at West Point. There's the guys that said, we want to go infantry, we want to go combat arms, and at that point, before you maybe a month before you graduate, you actually could look on the Military Times, the PAX chart of what units were going where. So I wanted to go to 10th Mountain Division. 10th Mountain Division was a light infantry unit. I hate flying. I hate, the airborne sort of portion of the military. I think that's, old school. We're never going to jump into combat ever again. But for some reason, there's a lot of Army units that require jumping. I said, I don't want to jump. I want to be light infantry. What's out there? 10th Mountain was getting deployed to Afghanistan roughly 6 months after graduation. And so I graduated in May. I gave away all my leave and to start IOBC right away. Completed IOBC, went to Ranger School, and finished airborne school. And the day that I finished airborne school, I drove up to Fort Drum. So it was a tight timeline because platoons were being given out as the battalion was deploying. And so I wanted to be a platoon leader. I didn't want to be in staff. And so there was a lot of pressure to finish Ranger School and not recycle, because if I had recycle, I would have missed on the beginning of my deployment. And so finally, I got to my unit in February, and a couple weeks later, I got a main body 10, C-17, landed in Manas, I think it's called, if I remember correctly. You go into the bathrooms and you see all the different units posting their little comments about what their experience in Afghanistan was. You start getting a little bit more nervous. Everything becomes more real. And then finally, you land in Kandahar Airfield. They give you a welcome. And then you grab all your bags. They locate where you go into in terms of your COP, FOB, or outpost. And I met my unit forward. And so the platoon leader that actually, I was not able to get a platoon. They were all, handed out. I was in Zari district. And one of the platoon leaders was injured, and so a couple weeks into the deployment, and so they sent me into that platoon, and that was probably one of the best days of my life.
So then something very interesting happens to you. You've watched it in movies, you've watched it on television, the actual combat itself. What did it smell like? What did it sound like? What did it feel like?
That's a tough question. I think when you show up to West Point, and I'm sure at the Air Force Academy is very similar in terms of your instructors and the expectations of who is it that you're going to become. Once you graduate, you wear the uniform, the same uniform that they wear in the force. You do the same training events. You have a CAT card just like they do in the service. You wake up in the morning and you salute the flag, and I think the expectation sort of becomes transparent. And you become ready. You become ready, mentally, and you say, when bullets are flying, when I finally hear the first big explosion, when the enemy's out there to get me, how am I going to react? You don't want to be the guy. I think you don't want to let anybody down. You don't want to let your classmates down. You don't want to let the instructor that spends so much time grooming you and developing you into a leader. You don't want to let them down. You don't want to let your parents down in terms of having a son that maybe stepped away from a challenge. The ultimate and most decisive factor is the men that you're serving with, men or women. I think, my platoon, I was an infantry platoon. I had an unbelievable group of guys, and they became my brothers. And so I was out there, I was their leader, I was making decisions. And to me, letting them down, would be the most fatal mistake that I could ever make. I could never live with myself if I ever made a decision that would not show that I cared about them more than I cared about my life. And so, I guess the first time it was maybe a little bit exciting. I think it was 3 weeks after I took a platoon in Kandahar. We were doing a mission in one of the grape huts. They have a lot of grapes in the Zari district. I didn't know that. I used to walk around eating grapes all day. And then, we were setting up a small patrol base, trying to do some interdiction, and they started shooting at us from a couple directions, and that's when it started becoming real. And the crazy thing is, and what I do remember is that you go straight to your training. So if you've trained to do something, you react automatically. It becomes very natural. Maybe it's not the right decision. So I'll give you an example. When you receive contact, you taught your battle drills in the Army. So battle drill 1 alpha, react to contact, react to a near ambush, whatever it is. You lay a suppressive fire and then you just go flank. That's kind of the basic drill that we practice all the time, and it's the most basic one. And I remember doing that. I remember just saying, okay, let's ordering people to stay down, to fix positions, to grab an element and go behind the enemy and maneuver through the woods and try to flank the enemy and whatnot. And then I realized that combat is a lot more different than that. You can't just be doing John Wayne stuff out in combat, because it starts putting a lot of extra risk on the mission, and you have to learn what the enemy's doing out to you. In Kandahar, for example, there's a lot of IEDs. There was just bombs everywhere, and so walking without a good plan on how you're going to maneuver through the grapevines, it could result in people losing their legs, and we were seeing a lot of IEDs. We were hitting a lot of IEDs as a unit, and it took a while. But again, it's you go from being sitting in this auditorium, just waiting, listening to a speaker, going to your room, enjoying your life, watching Netflix, and then 6 months later you're by yourself. There's no more instructors. There's no more professors. There's no one. It's just you're out by yourself. You're making decisions, and they have consequences. And so, firefights, engagement with the enemy, whatever it takes to do the mission. You're never going to back down from a challenge. You don't want to be the one that's holding anybody down or ever becoming somebody that is not representing the values of the organization that you come from.
I think the easy question would be, what did you learn about yourself, which is important, and we'll get to that. What did you learn about the other people? Because they're learning about ethics, they're learning about respect for other people. How did your respect grow for the people you were with?
If you were to tell your brother or your sister or your dad to risk their life on a second, without thinking and hesitating, to run across a soccer field while you're being shot at, to pick something up, to give you the keys of your car that you left them across. If you ask for a favor, they would risk their lives. A lot of people would hesitate. A lot of people would hesitate tremendously. The fear of losing your life is not very pleasant, and is not natural. It does not come natural at all. You have to almost be a little bit against your own nature, when you have to make these decisions. But when I ask a soldier from the 10th Mountain Division to go across a field because we need a secure position, he's not hesitating at all, and he's doing it for the same reason that I'm doing it. Because we're out here for each other, because we have a mission to accomplish, and because we have a greater purpose. And so you truly learn the values of and what people are made out of. I think when you meet anybody, since I've been in the NFL, I've met a lot of people, and every single time, 80% of everybody seems exactly the same. They're going to talk about how tall I am. They're going to talk about the Army, and if I ever met a Navy SEAL, and they're going to ask about the academy and what was it like. And then you get to the substance and the essence of every person. And I think that's what you learn quickly in combat is what type of person are you? What kind of commitment do you have to the unit? What are you willing to do for others? And that's a very noble and, in my opinion, courageous sort of way of life, of putting others ahead of you. Service is why everybody's here in uniform. And my battalion commander said it. He said, when you get to combat, you see the best and the worst of people. And I think in a lot of instances, you truly see the beauty of teamwork and the reason why we all wear the uniform, which is pretty cool.
I went to Walter Reed Hospital on 2 occasions with the New York Mets. My last 4 years I was in New York, and they told us we're going to Walter Reed, and I was excited to go. It was interesting to me to try to lift somebody's spirits. So we go in as a team. There are 25 players, about 6 to 7 coaches, the manager, some front office people, and the broadcasters. And we're standing there, and there was a guy who actually was just on this table. and he was in there doing his rehabilitation. This was the rehabilitation. Just his neck and his head, because all he had was his torso. He didn't have any arms, and he had no legs. And here I am with this team of professional athletes, and I wanted to see, and this is where I learned, and I wanted to ask you about this because I learned about judging people. I think all of us, to a certain extent, judge people. It's just innate in our way of behavior. But I remember standing there and I'm like, out of those 25 guys, which one's going to go over there and initiate this? Who's going to be the first guy to go talk to that gentleman who was doing his rehab? And I'm here to tell you that out of the 25 players, this guy would have been the 24th or 25th, and he was the first. Not only did he get up and walk in front of the rest of the players, but he walked up and got down on his knees and was face to face with this guy. And it was the most powerful moment of my life from the standpoint of learning character and never to look at those people and judge. So I wanted to share that with you, and I wanted to share that with the audience because you saw people get hurt. You saw somebody pass away. You won the Bronze Star for Valor because they depicted you as a man of courage. Could you tell us about that day?
So I have to be honest about this, and I think if anybody's who's been in the military for a little bit, they would understand this. Awards in the military are very, I don't want to call them sketchy, but awards in the military are very subjective, and I'm gonna be honest about that. The paperwork that goes through an award can set you up for one type of award, a different type of award. Whether somebody recommends you for the award can ultimately land you the award, or not land you the award. I think that when it comes to a platoon leader receiving an award, for circumstances such as getting an ambush and having to, go rescue one of your guys who's been, stranded off. I think anybody that wears a uniform, would have done it. Any of my guys would have done it. And I think in different units it happens constantly all the time. I just so happened to get put up for the award, and I ended up getting it. But it's not something that I look at as a moment of my life where it was something that I had to do, and I hesitated, but for doing it. I mean, all my guys would have gotten, that award because, we were all just as committed about each other. And so I like to think about that award not as something that I earned or something that I deserve, because I don't think you can award this, these valor awards to people, for specific actions because they're so subjective. And I think, in my opinion, it was something. If it does give me any pride, is the fact that I spent that tour with those men, and we're willing to do that for each other. And that's a reminder. It's just a reminder that sometimes the mission really sucks. Sometimes the day cannot go any. I mean, to be in an alleyway and to have two guys come up and start spraying bullets on your entire element, to be 6'10" and to have people in front of you get shot and behind you get shot and you don't get shot, to see one of your young privates scream for help and later find out obviously that he passed away from those injuries is very tough, especially when you're in charge of his life and you're the platoon leader, meaning you're responsible for everything the platoon does or fails to do. So I think that the mindset of the warrior, the mindset of the serviceman that is willing to do everything and ultimately give his life for others is something very mutual, and it happens in the culture of the platoon. And just like you said, talk about Walter Reed. I was actually in Walter Reed 2 days ago, seeing one of my buddies who's actually from Fort Carson, 10th Group, and lost his legs. And I was actually there to watch him do some rehab as well. And it was really interesting because we started talking about the war in Afghanistan and sort of what the mission that they have right now. And a lot of you are going to go into the same mission. Is going to be very challenging. We've been fighting this war for 18 years. I think I'm out of the service now, and I have some sort of freedom or maybe ability to look outside the box and say, what is it that we're trying to do here? It is very challenging. The mission is very challenging when you talk to your men and you try to encourage them to do something when they fail to see the purpose. And at the end of the day, the beauty about the commitment that we all have. When we put our uniform on, when you put your pilot's helmet on, when you put your flight suit, when you're out there, in the middle of a firefight, is that you're doing it for the men and women to your left and right, and ultimately that's the motivation behind all your actions, and it's the same thing that you feel at the academy. Your best friends in life, regardless of what path you choose, are going to be the ones that are sitting to your left and right now, because you're driving towards a purpose together, and that unifies you more than anything else you can do in life. And so I think that was a really cool experience, to feel that love from my unit, and to have that companionship and that loyalty, that regardless of the mission, regardless of what it is that we were doing, we're not going to ask questions. We're going to have each other's backs and go out there and fight together.
That's true brotherhood, because you will make the transition now, and we'll get to the point about playing in the NFL, and they talk about brotherhood. We're going to battle on Sunday and this and that. Of course, we play on Monday nights now, and Sunday nights and Thursday nights, so we don't specify Sundays entirely anymore. But brotherhood to you means what?
Brotherhood to me means what? I mean, it's not brotherhood, it's brotherhood, sisterhood. It's the, I think the perspective that I've gained over the 4 years that I've been out of the military have been incredible. And I think I am a millennial, and I think it's really funny that it has such a negative connotation in today's society. We feel entitled, we don't pay attention to our elders, whatever it is that they say about millennials. But I think one of the very interesting things that we do have in our culture is the fact that we need a purpose. And I think I found a purpose, when I went to West Point, I went to the academy, when I truly challenged myself to accomplish something that was harder than the average college experience, that requires a little bit more than just showing up to class and then graduate and take a job. And for me, the ability to say that my classmates went to places like Kunar district or Coast or Nangarhar, or they fought in Helmand province, or they're currently fighting in Syria, it does give me a lot of sense of pride, and it makes me think about the collective effort that every single person that wore the cadet uniform, that sat at this auditorium, that ultimately graduated with his parents, had a great party, that had an awesome time at flight school or the prep school that you do before you become an officer, and then finally started laying down the legacy of what you came here to do, gives you a tremendous sense of pride, because you really can't find anything else that is going to give you that much purpose, something that is so noble and so courageous, such a servant in the military and serving for others. Because at the end of the day, I think the best team players in the military, the best teammates that you have, the people that do, their actions are motivated to help others. I think they're the best officers, and that always, ends up being a very rewarding sort of experience every single time I look back or I hear about one of my classmates and what they're doing, and the fact that I belong to the same, the same club. And when I look at you, I feel the same way. I know that you guys are about to put on the uniform in a couple years or shortly in 6 months. And you guys are going to be asked to do something that is going to be very challenging, and a lot of you are going to make decisions that are going to protect me and my family, and that's very honorable, and that's the sort of brotherhood that I feel very proud of being part of. They're now being called a veteran, and I think it gives me a lot of pride. I obviously always pray back, try to go see veterans at the VA hospitals around Pittsburgh, and try to give back to the community, being here. And try to, at least spend some time with you, because honestly, nothing really gives me the same purpose anymore. Even if I, go to the Pro Bowl, even if I play in stadiums on Sundays, life is a lot more boring when you take the uniform off.
I was a part of the conversation, a conference call with Alejandro, and he was so upset that he couldn't stay in what he called the barracks. They put him in the lodge over here, and he was upset because he wanted to hang out with you guys. He wants to leave an impact. He wants to help you in your future.
I'm just really bored.
And I can't figure out how in the world, I don't know how a guy 6'10" could be in a barrack. I don't know how big the beds are, but they can't be big enough for you, that's for sure.
Yeah. It's funny, whatever image you think of me or whatever preconceived notions you have of who I am, I was an average cadet. I was complaining the entire time about everything that I had to do at the academy. I thought I had the answers for absolutely everything, the way we should do meals, the way we should do classes, the way we should do formations. It was, I feel the entitlement of the millennial plus the senior, at the academy. And, I wanted to get out of there. It's just, so you look forward to just leaving the academy, just to pack your car and move on from this place. But then after a couple of years, you start really thinking, well, I don't have a lot of friends in life. Regardless of how popular you are, the world starts to become smaller. You have kids, you get married, you move to suburbia, and I'm dying to take out the trash because it's the most exciting thing that I can do every day. And so now I come back to this world, and for me to have the opportunity to go back to the barracks and to see the type of, conversations that go around, the stress over assignments or what is it that we have to do now or uniform inspections or whatever. I think it's really cool. I miss that. I'm not going to have that many opportunities to be at a service academy and get to spend time with cadets. And so it's a shame that I didn't get a chance to put on my Army cadet PTs and spend a couple nights at the Air Force Academy.
Amazing. How do you make the transition from West Point graduate to deployment to employment in the National Football League? How does that happen?
So I'll tell you why I decided to join the National Football League. It's actually really interesting. I love the Army, and as you guys can tell, it was really a dream job for me. I deployed to Afghanistan for 13 months, 12 months. I got back. 4 months later, I deployed again. Got back. 4 months later, I deployed again, and then it got to a point where it was almost like the scene of Forrest Gump, where they're just telling me, "Forrest, you're done. You're probably not gonna go back to Afghanistan ever again." And at that moment, I just said, well, what am I going to do with my life? Am I going to continue to stay in the military? Everybody that goes to the service academies reaches that decision after 5 years. And for me, it was very tough. It was extremely tough. But you always have this feeling that the grass is greener on the other side, and that when you leave the military, you're going to be doing all these great things, and you're going to make a lot of money, and you're going to have a lot of free time, and all these things. And while that might be true, I think what you're actually going to be doing and your happiness level is going to be completely different. But I decided to get out, and I decided to go to business school, which is what a lot of cadets and officers do. Whether you go to West Point, you go to Annapolis, or you go to the Air Force Academy, most of you are going to find yourselves not knowing how to fit in society because you don't know anything about the regular world. Formations, Air Force language, Air Force knowledge, but you don't know how to do a balance sheet, you don't know how to do financials, and it becomes pretty tough, when you go into the job market. And so I said, I need to go to business school, I need to pay for it somehow. I don't know how to pay for business school. And one of my buddies just so happened to be playing in the NFL, and I looked at how much they made in 1 year, and I said, well, this is going to pay for business school. And I just decided to try out. Honestly, they have this thing called the Super Regional Combine, which is a really interesting idea by the NFL. I don't know if they were just literally trying to get more money out of the regular fans, but they just open up an NFL facility and they say anybody can come in here, run a 40, and see if you can make it into the NFL. And I was one of those guys, So I had, there were gym teachers that were 45 years old that, because knew everything about football because they don't miss a game on Sundays, and it was a fun experience. I think I ran, the 40 in like 3 hours, and I still somehow got an invite to go to the Super Regional Combine in Detroit. And from there, I got the opportunity to go to the Philadelphia Eagles, which was a publicity stunt essentially. Where they wanted to have a veteran try out for the NFL. I didn't really get a lot of reps, and I was the first one to get cut. If you follow Hard Knocks, I was the first player to get cut. They give you the trash bag, you have to clear your locker, and you have to walk in front of everybody. Like, oh, they cut him, and you're there, and the media's asking you questions, and they're saying, first casualty. And I was like, call me a casualty. But yeah, then from there, it just It was up in the air. That I was still active duty. I was taking all my leave time. I didn't take a single leave day when I was in the service because I was always deployed. And when the NFL opportunity came up, I started taking my leave to go to OTAs and other training camp requirements. And a day before, I think it was 3 days before my ETS, my last day of active duty, they cut me. So I had no contract, and I had to go back to my unit, the 1st Ranger Battalion, and sort of. I mean, if you can imagine, I have a pretty good position in one of the best units in the entire world. I'm very happy. Savannah, Georgia is unbelievable. I'm at Hunt Army Airfield. It's a very small base. I don't have to wait in line to get on post. I'm living in downtown city, which is it's very difficult to find that situation in the Army. I think Fort Carson is the only one that has a semi-decent city next to Army installations. And I got back to Savannah, and it was one of those like, hey, I tried, but I failed. And so it was actually pretty embarrassing. But I got a chance to, go with the Steelers. They called me a couple days later. I spent a year in practice squad, and then from there, I just been very fortunate, very lucky. I've had unbelievable teammates, unbelievable coaches, and they've helped me develop and become a starter in the NFL.
Pretty humble. He's an all-pro. He's not just a basic football player. He made the All-Pro for the NFL. And on top of that, he's the first Service Academy graduate to do that, become an All-Pro in almost 40 years. So that's pretty doggone.
It's very subjective. The Pro Bowl is extremely subjective. I can't come out here and tell you that it is something spectacular. Again, it's an individual achievement in a team sport, and I think it doesn't really mean anything in the big scheme of things. The best job to have in the NFL as a left tackle is the Eagles' left tackle because they won the Super Bowl, and that's the only thing that matters.
Tell me what it's like to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, one of the revered NFL franchises.
Got some nice terrible towels.
There's a lot of Bronco fans here. I will tell you.
I've been to Colorado twice to play football, and I never won. So it's been a tough experience coming here to play. I think that to play in the NFL is different from being in the Army in the sense that everybody around you wants you to succeed. You can go to your battalion commander. You can go to your squadron commander, you can go to your instructors, you can ask them, how do I become a better officer? How do I become a better pilot? How do I become a better leader? And they'll help you, and everybody around you will help you. Everybody wants you to succeed. And I think in the NFL is the exact opposite. Is you're on your own. What do you have? If you're a first-round pick, they're going to baby you for 3-4 years. If you're an undrafted player, you have essentially a summer to show what you got. And it's pretty challenging, but I think everybody here, loves the challenge. I mean, you didn't come to the Air Force Academy to not be challenged. You came here because you wanted to be challenged. And so I think I've competed in absolutely everything that I wanted to do. I wanted to be the first one to see combat for my class. I wanted to be in the best unit. I wanted to always, strive for the highest class rank, PT test. I mean, anything. I'm always trying to compete in everything. And so the NFL is a perfect environment in the sense that they just let you go compete. And a lot of people, and it's really interesting, a lot of people are always more talented than you. A lot of people have a lot more God-given talents in terms of playing football. I meet players that, eat McDonald's every single day and bench 500 pounds and run the 40 and 4.5. I mean, it's crazy. But they sometimes forget, the values of what it takes to become a great overall player, a good teammate, to understand the game, to put the hard work and dedication to it. And so that gives a little bit of wiggle room to players like me that don't have God-given talent, that have never played the position in a pro-style offense, that really spent 5 years serving in the military. And so football is a great sport. It's been really good to me, and I've been very thankful to play for the Steelers that have taught me all these values about the game of football.
Was anybody here last year that's in this room? Last year we had Brian Griese come in, the son of great Hall of Famer Bob Griese, but a good quarterback in his own right, won the national championship in Michigan. The next year he's a part of the Broncos that won the Super Bowl. He didn't play. There was a guy named John Elway, but Brian was there on the team, and very few players would ever go from a national championship to the Super Bowl the next year. And right before we came on stage, I said, Brian, I'm just going to ask you, because the Super Bowl had just been played, I'm going to ask you about Tom Brady. He goes, ask me. And it was the most unbelievable answer that he had about Tom Brady. I bring it up for two reasons. Number one, Tom Brady arguably is the greatest quarterback that ever played in the National Football League. No question. Number two, that was his guy. He loves Tom Brady, and one of the many stops in your life was in Rhode Island, and you became a big New England Patriots fan. But here's what Brian Griese said. Now, you've now played against Tom Brady, so you've seen what he does. Brian Griese said, when I was at Michigan, I'm the senior, I'm everything. We're winning the national championship, and I keep looking over my shoulder, and this guy's not gaining on me. But there was a sophomore named Tom Brady, and he was almost like doing things that you only do when the coach is watching. And Brian Griese said, the coach was never watching. And so he said, when I saw Brady do what he did after the combine report, that was one of the worst ever. I mean, I think you might beat him in the 40. He ran a 5.2. That was considerably slower than Peyton Manning, who was a 4.8. So he was fleet of foot. But Tom Brady took that combine report and threw it down and said, you didn't measure my heart. And he does that each and every day at age 40. You can't measure his heart. So what was it like to play against a guy you admired as a player?
Every single time I look at Tom Brady play, I want him to throw as many interceptions as possible, and I want us to win the game. It's not nice. It's about the loyalties. I mean, I grew up watching Tom Brady. Obviously, I was a big Patriots fan. I remember hearing the Patriots play the Giants when I was in Kandahar, not on a radio, just trying to an A fan trying to get the game, and a couple of years later, then you're playing for the Patriots and you have to go against Tom Brady. And I think all those loyalties go out the window. But I do have a lot of respect for who he is, obviously. I think everybody can learn a lot from the type of dedication that he has, his humility, his approach to the game. For everybody that plays football, to be that wired and that sort of intense about everything that you do is very admirable, because, the game plays a toll on your body. Losses, they affect the team cohesion because there are challenges on the road, and he seems to overcome them very well. But now we have very good leaders on the Steelers that I look up to, and I think I hope that Tom Brady feels very satisfied with what you said about him, and then maybe he hangs up the cleats, and we can play the Patriots with a different quarterback.
Well stated. You said something to me in the green room that caught my imagination, and then you referred to the millennials again about their cell phones. Professional sports, and in particular the NFL, has become huge with social media. Explain that.
Well, social media is crazy. I got rid of social. I mean, I had Facebook for a couple of years when it was the .edu account that you needed to have. So I thought it was a very exclusive group, and now there's 500 million people on Facebook, and I guess it's not the preferred social media outlet. But I think that the world in terms of how we live our lives is shifting a little bit away from how I want to live my life. And I see that my teammates. I think in today's era, anybody has a microphone and anybody has a voice, and when it is written and is seen over a medium such as your cell phone or computer, it gives a sense of validity, or it is something that is right, or something that you should listen to. And so a lot of times people get too caught up on social media. Not honestly with my teammates around the NFL. Everybody's very aware of social media and the things that people are saying, the things that people are posting, and it's a different era. I mean, it's a different challenge, especially for everybody in here who I know most people have social media accounts. I think it puts a different type of pressure on human daily interactions, and how many likes you're supposed to get in a picture, and who's liking and who's commenting, and how you're able to get within circles, or who's I don't know. I find it exhausting. I think it's something that my teammates are struggling with, and I think teammates, players in the NFL struggle with the management of the social media accounts. And I think I would say that as officers, also in the Air Force, I think it's a very dangerous, topic that in an area that I think everybody should be, sort of aware and educated on.
Well, you saw the explosion of it because there is a movement in the NFL that took place this year that everybody in this room knows about. I'm not going to get political about it at all, but Alejandro said I could ask him about it. All I could say is you had to come to the podium to talk to the media, something that I did all these years. You had to explain why you stood for the anthem. And I thought that was ironic in all of this, that you actually had to answer for you standing for the anthem. So if you could tell us the story and what transpired.
It's a very different environment when you go from being in the Army. Everybody wears the U.S. flag on their shoulders. Everybody has a common purpose. Everybody's, you refer to people for their rank. You could care less about, the color of their skin, their sexual orientation. Those things really don't matter. The mission is so important that everything becomes secondary. If you're competent at your job, people are drawn to you, and you have a platform, to speak your mind and to be, whoever you want to be. In the NFL, I've gotten myself into a situation where I didn't know a lot of things about the African American community, and I learned a lot. And I mean, it was a very interesting and humbling process for me. My head coach is an African American who comes from a very rough part of Virginia Beach, and it's been a learning process for somebody that that maybe was never exposed to these stories, and then you start obviously caring about your teammates. I mean, I'm the same person whether I'm in the Army in a platoon, as I am in the locker room. I don't change because I'm wearing I don't know how to be different. I'm an academy grad. I am, I've always been a team member, and now I'm sitting here, and it's very. It's crazy when your teammates wake up in the morning and they feel like they're not something is preventing them from being happy, and they're being really upset about the current situation in our country, and you want them to feel the same way as you, but obviously it's very difficult, and it's way beyond my understanding, and so unfortunately there's a conflict of interest when it comes to the American flag and the National League protest of social injustice and social awareness. And I got myself, thrusted into the middle of this conversation, essentially by mistake. I think as a team we decided to stay inside, whatever that meant. Meaning we were not going to be on the sidelines, and the captains were supposed to be next to me because I was playing a soldier field. I am a veteran. I represent a lot of veterans around the nation, whether I want to or not. I represent a lot of the Pittsburgh Steelers fans that are veteran as well. That are veterans and have fought for this country, and all my friends at the academy. I mean, to look no further, the same Marines that I saw when I was a kid going to Afghanistan, my classmates in my chemistry class and in my physics class, my buddies, my Ranger buddy at Ranger School, and obviously all the men that I served with in Afghanistan. I mean, all those guys are also part of my team and the guys that I represent every single day. And so, I think the day of the execution went wrong. I found myself alone. I was supposed to be with a couple of my teammates, but for some reason that didn't happen. And talk about social media and talk about the news cycles that we have right now. Everything sort of gained a lot of traction in blaming the Steelers for leaving me up there and maybe not being respectful of the flag. I think the Steelers as an organization, suffered and they had to go through the consequences of their actions that were unintentional. They just want to remove themselves from the situation altogether. They didn't want to make players stand up or take a knee. And on my end, I also had to answer for the fact that there was a picture that circulated around the world, and it made me look like a hero. And I think that could not be further from the truth. Again, I was a cynical, average cadet who would probably be all the way in the back of the auditorium right now. And then when I was in the Army, I was just like all my classmates. I was not the only one that went out to Afghanistan. I was not the only one that saw combat. All my classmates saw, I wouldn't say all of them, but the majority of my classmates saw combat, and they fought bravely, just like an academy grad is expected to fight. And then I went and played in the NFL, and I tried to represent my friends and my values, just like every one of you would do. But I do understand that it is a very sort of delicate situation, because there's a lot of emotions that are attached to the flag, and there's a lot of emotions attached to the reasons why certain players are protesting, and I think they're all legitimate. But when it comes to my situation, I don't want to speak for anybody. I don't want to be the voice of all veterans. I don't want to be the voice of all anti-kneelers, because I have no feelings towards anybody. I care about the good values and the good people in this country, and I think right now I'm surrounded by unbelievable Americans that decided to serve. And so, all I can do is look at you in the eyes and say, I'm very thankful for your service. I'm very thankful for the decisions that you've made that led you here. And I just want to let you know that I was there as well, and I share that same enthusiasm, and I respect it. And because of that, I always do and carry the same sort of demeanor when it comes to the flag, and respecting, respecting our values that we all share.
If there's a golden nugget that you've taken away from your experience as a young man, from the military to the NFL to your family, because to me, you were raised right, you've done right, you've lived right, and your job, whether you accept that assignment or not, and you obviously have, is to leave an impact of some sort. So on behalf of the United States Air Force Academy, I thank you for being here tonight. You've made an impact on me, and I hope everybody here in this room enjoyed listening to Alejandro Villanueva tonight. And now the best part for us tonight is to see all of you, and we open up, and I know we have some microphones around. We would like to open it up. If there's anybody that has a question out there, feel free to walk up to that microphone, tell us your name, and ask a question of Alejandro. And don't be shy. We got a shy group. Here comes one.
I think it's fine to see. This will never change. Nobody will ever ask questions.
Hello.
Hello.
How you doing, sir? I'm a Cadet 4th Class Clark from Cadet Squadron 27. Yep. How would you define warrior ethos?
You know what? I think a lot of times, combat is portrayed as this movie-like. You're doing all these movements to contacts, and you're on the radios, and it's super glorious and whatnot. But in reality, it's a lot more simple than that. It's just, there's a task that needs to be done, and you have to do it. And you're going to get the challenges and points where it's very difficult and it's very hard, and it's not all about carry the soldier and get him out of there, or fly low and drop bombs. It's not about that at all. It's about making the right ethical decisions and being a true leader of whatever it is that you're leading and that you've been prepared to do. The greatest officers that I've ever met, my classmates and whatnot. I mean, they were not guys that were just super strong and aggressive, and they were always about getting after the enemy and whatnot. I thought the best leaders that represented that war ethos were the smart ones, that were very thoughtful, individuals that really cared about ultimately accomplishing the mission, and really having a balance between mission first and soldier always. I think those were the real warriors. Anybody can go out there and get shot. I mean, honestly, it's not, you can go out there and run around in circles in Kandahar and you're going to get blown up or you're going to get shot at, and that really isn't what a warrior is all about. Who's willing to do more. I mean, everybody here is willing to do everything. I think it's just the leaders that are really smart and that are able to have that balance between good order and discipline and putting you guys at risk.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Right here.
Good evening. I'm C3C Keith Billiot from CS36, and my question is: in your time at West Point as a cadet, were you ever on any kind of probation, and if so, what did you learn from it?
All right. I don't know. I mean, I feel like so if whatever I say today, nobody's going to reprimand me because they can't cancel me. That's a little freebie. But at the same time, I don't know. So. What do you guys have for punishment here? Do you guys walk hours? You guys walk hours? Okay, good. I don't feel, I feel like, so I walked, I missed 2 classes. I got 5 hours each, so 10 hours. I helped a naked man my first year. I got in trouble for that as well. And
any follow-up questions on that one?
By helping, I mean, like I was doing my homework and I just said, yeah, you can come in here and put your robe on. I don't know. I was living on the bottom floor, so it was accessible. And I had nothing.
Any more follow-up questions?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, but at the end of the day, I'll tell you something though that's really interesting about. You talk about the cadet honor code and talk about getting in trouble at the academy. It's all funny games. But you can get away with a lot of things in life except at the academy, Like a lot of things, and I'm serious because I used to go to colleges all the time after I graduated. I was stationed in Fort Benning and I had a map and I said I'm going to go party at all the SEC schools around Fort Benning, and it was fun. And you truly see how a lot of other ROTC cadets live, and how a lot of college students, and the things they do, the policies they have in the dorms. Man, when you have to face a major in the Army or the Air Force about discipline, and it affects who you're going to become for the rest of your life and how people are going to look at you, it becomes a lot more serious. And you don't want to be the cadet that was known for doing something wrong at the academy. You don't want to be the guy that was known for honor, or he was known for helping a naked man, or for for all these things. You really don't. I think having fun is a very challenging thing at the academy. I'll tell you this. It really is. It's a challenge level 10 at the Academy at West Point, and it's a challenge level maybe 4 here, because it is. I mean, you can go to Colorado Springs and watch a movie. I'm at West Point. There was no cabs. There's nothing. You're in an academy in the middle of the woods. The funnest thing you can do is go catfishing. So when you find yourself in those situations where you're just I need to have fun. I need to get out. I need to do something. The line of any alcohol-related incidents, anything related to sexual assault, sexual harassment, anything related to honor, anything related to doing the wrong thing. I know that you guys have people come in and tell you all the time. You just do not want to have that. And the reason why is because it's going to affect your confidence, honestly. And when you go into flight school and you have something like that, it's going to really hurt you. In terms, it's almost like dropping a touchdown pass to win the Super Bowl. That's kind of the same feeling. For the next time they throw you the ball, you're gonna become, you're gonna ask yourself, how are people looking at me? How do people perceive me? So I will always stay in the conservative side. Netflix is awesome. You can stay in your room. You can do a lot of fun things, but I think that the question was funny, but to think that the honor violations, that cadet discipline is something that you can laugh about. I would be the first one to tell you that if you get anything out of what I said today, is just please do not get in trouble. Please take this seriously, and come out of the academy with a clean slate, with the best opportunities to be the best officer you could ever be.
Thank you, Cadet Wing. Unfortunately, we don't have any more time for questions. So, sorry. Oh. Mr. Villanueva, sir, thank you for your message. It was one of loyalty, courage, and humility, and I think the Cadet Wing can learn a lot from it, so thank you so much. On behalf of our 2018 NCLS participants, the Cadet Wing, and the faculty and staff of the Air Force Academy, we would like to present you with both a small token of our appreciation. Cadet Wing, this concludes our event. Thank you all for coming out tonight. You are dismissed.